Palestine since 1517 to 1917 was part of, okay, maybe this you can hear it, was part of Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire, the last caliphate. After the First World War, Ottoman Empire divided by Britain and France. Okay? That time, two British and French politicians had very important and very bad meeting for us to divide Arab countries, to give parts of Arab countries to Britain and part of Arab countries to France. Okay? That time they gave Palestine, Jordan, Iraq to Britain, and they give Syria, Lebanon, and also other parts to France. Okay? So since that time, since 1917, we have in Palestine something we call it the British Mandate. But in fact, it's occupation. They said, we are here just to protect you, to lead you until you can lead yourself. But in fact, this very bad time since 1917 until 1948, which is the real date of Israeli occupation, because the job of British to bring Israel. That's why we can see here the map. This is the map. You see, this is Palestine, which is very difficult to see Palestine now. If you search in Google, they give Israel. So green color, all this Palestine. There is very few areas for Israeli, not for Israeli, for Jewish. Because we have Jewish as this is considered also one religion. So we have group of Jewish even before 1947, but this is not Zionist. Okay, so after 1947, the British worked with Israel to bring Israel to Palestine. That's happened in May 1948. Okay, so this is very important date for us because we call it the date of Nakba. Okay, so after that, from time to time, Israeli take more Palestinian land, more and more and more. Even this 2020, Israeli took too many Palestinian land in Jerusalem and West Bank, and they just destroyed the Palestinian villages, Palestinian houses, and they built Israeli settlements. That's why you can see this. This is the left side. I'll show you. Can I have a mouse? Okay, no problem. If you see the Bawa left side, Gaza. This is just located on the Mediterranean Sea. Very, very small, 365 kilometers square. Inside Gaza, more than 2 million, 2.3 million. The most crowded area in the world. And the other parts, we have West Bank and Atas, Jerusalem, Quds, inside Jerusalem and Masjid al-Aqsa. So they take more land. Now their plan to take all the Palestinian land, including Gaza, by the way, as we will explain, inshallah. So how British give the Israeli, this is when you mention in the poster, Palestine from river to the sea. That means all Palestine, including all the occupied area, which is very good word to say always. Because now many students, many even experts, politicians, a few Palestinians, they said, we believe in two-state solution. We give Israeli part and we take our part to have two countries. But they still occupation. So when we say from river to the sea, from river of Jordan to the Mediterranean Sea, which is full Palestine. What Israeli want? Next map. This Israeli want to take all. Israeli want to take Palestine. They call it Min al-Nil ila al-Furat, from Nile River to Furat River. They want to take Palestine. You see this English, I think this is clear. This is Palestine, brown color, Jordan, yellow color, and they want to take also part from Saudi, part from Iraq until reach to the Furat River, until Nile River, this side, left side. They call it a greater Israel. So this is their plan. If today, inshallah, they are not going to take this because we have the Palestinian and Muslim, inshallah, defend about Palestine. After Gaza, their plan to continue, take other parts. parts of Egypt, parts of Jordan. This they call it Israel al-Kubra, Greater Israel. Okay, so just to know how Israel is working. From time to time they take more lands. Even now their plan inside Palestine, but later their plan will be to take also other Arab lands. So during this period, just this is a short historical introduction to know. I think 10 minutes already gone, isn't it? Okay. So according to Israeli, most of you thought just the conflict or the occupation, aggression, and war against the Palestinian every 2 years, every Ramadan. Only just a few days ago, Israeli massacres, crimes against the Palestinians started even before 1948, during British time. They did too many massacres, too many crimes against the Palestinian village. And in this is maybe the Prof. Naqib, he will discuss about Balfour Declaration, which is the way how Israel take Palestine. By Balfour Declaration, this is the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Britain, 1917, give them promise that you will have national state in Palestine. Okay, so this is about the legality of Israel as a country. Next, please. Yes, the suffering of Palestinians started long time ago, even before 1948. But in 1948, became very clear, because before 1948, we don't know who did the crime. After that, Israeli declared that they did all of this crime to bring all the Israeli from overseas, from all countries to Palestine. So the suffering of the Palestinians not limited to these days, now 14 days, but extend too many years, since 1948 and before that. When Israeli came, they didn't just came to take part of Palestinian. First they destroyed many villages, many houses. They killed many Palestinians. More than 10,000 Palestinians within a few days, and then they get the Palestinian land. They disabled the Palestinian permanent displacement to the Palestinian. Majority of them went to many countries like Lebanon, Jordan, and also to Europe, America, many countries. So we have part of Palestinian in Gaza, part of Palestinian in West Bank, part in Jerusalem, and we have also more than 7 million in other countries. That time, 700,000 disabled by Israeli. After they killed too many people, so they try to apply the same plan now in Gaza. They destroyed many villages and they committed too many crimes. I have many videos, but the time not enough for us to show videos. But just to tell you, please next.
Since I am not a Palestinian, I have to bring something, and I have to say what I want to say carefully. Yeah? So, yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good evening to you all. I hope I am loud and clear, right? Yes. Please allow me to give a big thanks or convey a big thanks to the organizers of this timely event for allowing me to speak on Israeli-Palestinian conflicts. One of the topics I am assigned to talk about is the illegitimacy of the state of Israel, or what we call it, illegitimacy of the state of Israel, yes. This is a tough topic, not easy. Whoever designed it. Maybe controversial as well, to some, not to all, but to some. But when one look at the way the state of Israel was established, will be convinced that the legitimacy of the state of Israel is highly questionable. Before I talk about the illegitimacy of the Israeli state, please allow me to say this. I am sure you will agree with me that as we speak, a murderous and genocidal campaign is going on in Palestine, sadly supported by major powers of the world. Yeah. So, what we are, currently, I think most of us have smartphones. We are hearing and watching through news channels and social media in Gaza. The situation there, we are observing, through medias, is heartbreaking, truly heartbreaking. The question is, the situation is extremely deadly, but it's not new, as Dr. Muhammad just now mentioned, as it has continued in Palestine, due to a lesser degree, for more than 7 decades, and has brought great suffering to the Arab inhabitants. If you look at the historic Palestine, I think Dr. Muhammad had shown us, it consisted, and still of course consists, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, right? So some, of course, it's not only Palestinian whose land are grabbed, but also the neighboring countries' lands have also been grabbed, especially the Lebanese one, and also the Syrian ones. Sometimes the conditions are so inhuman that it hurts the conscience of humanity. As right now, it is affecting us, affecting Muslims all over the world. Now, my understanding of the long-term harrowing events in Palestine is that the Palestinians are essentially the victim of Zionism and its supporters, who are responsible for the creation of the State of Israel in Palestine after the forced expulsion of its Arab and Muslim inhabitants. Zionism is a Jewish nationalist movement headed by Herzl, Theodor, David, Ben Gurion, and some other European Jews that originated, of course, in Eastern and Central Europe in the late 19th century. Its main goal, Zionist goal, was to create and support a Jewish national state in Palestine, which it did so systematically via deception, lies, and violent means with the help of some Western powers. remember the Balfour Declaration, as was shown to us a few minutes ago, in which Britain promised to establish a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. At that time, Palestine was under the rule of the Ottoman Empire, where Palestinians, Muslims, Christians, and Jews were living in peace and enjoying equal rights under the Ottoman Empire. Now, Ottoman Empire ceased to exist at the end of the First World War, and Palestine was then placed under the British rule by order, or what is termed as mandate of the League of Nations. I think Dr. Muhammad referred to the mandate, right? Now, the Palestinians were not consulted, and this made them dissatisfied with the decision of the League of Nations to place Palestine under the British rule. Palestinians wanted independence, but their demand has been ignored so far from the very first day which they demand this. So the mandate provided Britain with the opportunity to fulfill its promise in the Balfour Declaration of 1917 by encouraging and facilitating Jews from all over the world to immigrate to Palestine and settle there. A process which unfortunately, as Dr. Muhammad mentioned just now, continues to this day, according to which Palestinian lands were and still are basically taken from them, from the Palestinians, and given to the foreign Jewish settlers. A bitter reality that is grossly unfair and is violative of international law rules. Obviously, the settlement process of foreign Jews in the Palestinian land led to bloody conflicts between the native Arabs and Jewish immigrants in Palestine, which further displaced more Palestinians, both Muslims and Christians. Now, when the League of Nations, you know what is League of Nations, right? That is the predecessor of the United Nations. When the League of Nations was replaced by the United Nations, the Palestinians hoped that their aspiration for freedom and self-determination would be realized, but no. And in fact, the situation worsened as Israel continued its aggressive policy of confiscating and annexing Palestinian lands, as well as some of its neighboring countries, in violation of international legal standards. About 3 years after the founding of the United Nations, and one day before the British withdrawal from Palestine on May 14, 1948, the Jewish People's Council announced the establishment of the State of Israel in the 78% of the Palestine territory. U.S., of course, the United States of America, was the first country to recognize Israel as a state. A year later, on May 11, 1949, Israel was admitted as a member of the United Nations, even though Israel has had yet to define its territorial boundary. Now, the State of Israel, led by the Zionist regime, was founded on violence and violations of international laws that the United Nations calls to be observed. It directly or indirectly forced the Palestinians out of their homes, usurped their territories, only to build settlements for foreign Jews. Still not satisfied, Israel continues to occupy the small areas left for the Palestinians. Palestinians continued and are still continuing resisting the illegal occupation of their territory, of their state. In 1947, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution number 181, to split Palestine into two independent states, a Jewish state and an Arab state, with Jerusalem under UN trusteeship. Although the United Nations called its partition plan as the only workable solution to the dispute between Jews and Arab Palestinians, the Palestinians rejected that, considered it grossly unfair, as it granted the Jewish state 60% total area of Palestine. So Palestinians continue to resist the occupation of their ancestral land, but Israel often crushed the resistance and continued to grab of Arab lands and their annexation, meaning making it part of the territory of Israel. So on 5th June 1967, Israel launched an aggressive war known as the Six-Day War against the Palestinian territories, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. It quickly won the war and brought most of the Palestine territory under its occupation. Israel attempted to justify its Six-Day War by invoking the so-called anticipatory right of self-defense, but such a right does not exist in international law. I have been notified, but inshallah within 3 or 4 minutes I will finish. Is that okay? Yeah, I beg 5 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So that right of so-called anticipatory self-defense does not exist in international legal system. Following its expansionist policy, Israel refuses to define its borders and never stops seizing Arab land by force in contravention of international law. It did attack Iraq in 1981 on the pretext of preventing Iraq to acquire a nuclear weapon, but Israel itself has nuclear weapons since 1950. It also attacked other Arab countries, including Lebanon and Syria, in so many occasions, captured Gaza, Golan Heights, the West Bank, all of East Jerusalem, ethnically cleansed hundreds of thousands of Palestinians by forcing them to become refugees. Since 1950, Israel has developed nuclear weapons, refused to sign the NPT. You know what is NPT? The Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and recent treaty on nuclear ban. And yet, following its policy of ambiguity, neither admit it has nuclear weapon, nor reject or deny having a nuclear weapon. So it follows the principle of ambiguity, leaving you in the dark to think. So Israel has rendered millions of Palestinians into exile, making them refugees, denying them the right to return to their homeland. Right now, Israel is asking Palestinians to leave Gaza. The aim is to take 100% control over its territory as that tiny territory, as Dr. Muhammad just now mentioned. Since 1987, two intifadas uprising conducted by the Palestinians to achieve their right to self-determination, but sadly to no avail. Israel is still seizing, annexing the Arab lands. Now, Israel is too arrogant, very arrogant, as you can see, their conduct in social media and in the news. Very, very arrogant. Neither accept the so-called one-state solution, nor the so-called two-state solution. So it wants everything, all the territories of Palestine, as Dr. Muhammad just now mentioned. Israel is not sincere when it enters into peace negotiation with the Palestinian Authority. It lacks, unfortunately, good faith. Whenever negotiates, Israel does not do so in good faith, but simply to buy time, more time, to complete the absolute takeover of the entire Palestinian territory and even beyond. Now, but no worry, a regime that is founded on deception, lies, and violence will not last forever. It may one day end. Israel cannot and will not achieve its goal, provided of course, Palestinians form a united front against Israel, and if the Muslim states and the free world support them, inshallah, Palestinians will one day realize their right of self-determination. I don't advocate for war. No, war is bad, very bad. It solves no problem. But Palestinians appear to have no other choice but to do something to drag Israel to the negotiating table. Israel should enter negotiation with all sincerity and in good faith, and reach to a diplomatic settlement of the conflict which Israel itself is the author. One more minute. Yes. Is very bad. Me, right? I'm not finishing with it. I am given 1.5 minutes, right? Yeah, okay. For your information, and you should take note of this, all conflicts are capable of peaceful resolution. So there is no need to war, provided the parties do have the necessary goodwill and political desire to do so. Palestine, on which Israel is illegitimately established, consists of Muslims, Christians, and Jews, as I mentioned earlier. All must be protected. All must be protected. All must have equal rights. Palestinian refugees must be allowed to return to their home, to their former homes. And all these communities must have an equal voice in determining their future state, Palestine or Israel, and elect the government of their choice based on majority rule. Remember, none of these communities can exterminate the other, as it is not legally, morally, and religiously possible. They have to reach an understanding via peaceful means to live with each other in peace and prosperity. I know this is difficult to achieve, but it's not impossible. So long there is political will on the part of the parties to the conflict. With that, thank you for listening. Sorry for taking a lot of time.
Speaker.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Brothers and sisters, thank you to the organizers for inviting me to share some view on the issue of Palestine. Now, I'm going to talk about the occupation and the siege. Okay, the occupation of Gaza began in 1967. Okay, and the siege of Gaza began in year 2007. Occupation, what I mean is the military occupation. Occupation by way of force. Okay, and when I say about the siege, it is the blockade. Gaza has been blocked by land, by air, as well as by sea. So, no going in, no going out. So, this is the situation that the people of Gaza have been experiencing. Okay, since 1967, the occupation, since 2007, the siege. Okay. Now, with regard to the occupation, the military occupation, actually the Security Council has passed a resolution 242 in year 1968, calling for the withdrawal of the withdrawal of the Israeli forces from the occupied territories. The Security Council has made this call. Now, under the law, we have the International Humanitarian Law, which is a branch of public international law. This is the law applicable in times of armed conflict. So, in the situation of occupied territories, two laws will be applicable. One is the International Humanitarian Law, and another will be the International Human Rights Law. Okay. With regard to IHL, we have the Hague Regulations, which are from 19th century, Prof. Hackett, is it? And as well as the Geneva Conventions, 1948. Thank you. Okay. Now, under the IHL, the occupier cannot have sovereignty over the occupied territories. So they do not have sovereignty. They cannot do anything. Okay? They have to ensure that the status quo in terms of the demography, in terms of the geographical, in terms of the political system remains. They cannot change anything. The most they can do are only few changes. But basically they cannot change. They have to preserve the status quo. But what they are doing, they are destroying houses, they are building new settlement on the ruins of the destroyed houses. These are changing the demography. These are changing the geographical, the geopolitical. Okay, so they have no sovereignty, and they cannot acquire the territory by way of force. Occupation is by way of force. Okay? And they cannot annex the occupied territory. For example, the Security Council has also declared that the annexation of East Jerusalem to be unlawful, null and void. And any occupation in situation of armed conflict is supposed to be temporary. It cannot be forever. It cannot be until the end of time. It has to be temporary. But you see, The occupation has started in 1967 and today is 2023. It is not temporary. Okay? And even the ICJ in the wall's case, okay, a wall were built in the West Bank, and the ICJ said that this building of the wall would lead to de facto annexation of the territories by the Israel, and it is wrong. Now, an occupier, okay, of the occupied territory has a number of obligations under IHL. Okay, among other things, they have to enhance civil life and well-being of the population. Okay, among other things, they have to provide basic needs. They have to facilitate humanitarian aid. They cannot transfer their own people into the occupied territories. They cannot possibly transfer the population from their homes to other places. These are and they cannot destroy properties. These are all laws provided under the IHL. Okay, but this is what, the contrary is what being done by Israel. Okay, Security Council, yes, has passed resolution, but of course, unfortunately, Security Council cannot take military action due to abuse of veto by US and the UK. And then the ICJ has also gave an advisory opinion with regard to the wall, and then with regard to the blockade. What has been done by the humanitarian people would be try to breach the blockade we had in 2010 Freedom Flotilla mission, but it ended with 2010, isn't it? 2010, but it ended with the military operation of Israel over some of the ships, including a ship where some Malaysians were boarding, okay, flying the flag of Turkey, okay, and it caused the death of some Turkish humanitarian workers. Okay, brothers and sisters, I will not take long. I think I'll stop here. Okay, probably from question and answer we can have better discussion. Thank you very much.
So we have heard from the speakers, and we have now come to the question and answer session. With what the speakers have informed us earlier about the history, the international players' role, and also the roles of ICJ and so on, do we have any confusion or any questions from the audience? The floor is open. If you want to ask a question, please raise your hand and I will call upon you. The sister with the scarf.
My name is Mardia. I'm your first semester student. So I have two questions, one for Prof. Nakib and one for Dr. Hisham. The first one, Prof. Nakib, thank you very much for your explanation just now. But can you state in simple terms, because from what I got from your lecture or notes, it centered on the legality of the start of the occupation. And you mentioned that later on, not long after 1948, that US recognized Israeli, it became member of the United Nations and all. Can you state in simple terms, is Israel a legitimate state now today? Thank you. So, of international law with Dr. Hisham. So it's next. So my question is, Doctor, because I think I did a good job with the subject in the past. So my question is, you explain on the continuous violation of international law by Israel and US. So what is the way forward? What is the true nature of international law if it is only applicable to everyone but US and Israel? And do you think that the currently ongoing protests around the world against US, against Israeli, against Japan, France, these countries that are supporting Israeli illegal occupation and genocide in Gaza, do you think it would change the landscape of international law in the future? So thank you very much.
I suggest that questions are connected first, and then probably when Prof. Nakib or Prof. Dr. Sholoti or myself answer, we can answer 2-3 questions at one go. We can take time. Boleh?
The brother at the corner, yes, who raised his hand first.
Assalamualaikum. I actually have 5 questions.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we can accommodate to that, so if you could please just limit it to 2 at most. Thank you.
So, my question is that you mentioned about the map of Donald Trump vision in 2020, right? And my question to you is that if Donald Trump were to be elected as the president of the US next, so do you think he will bring back the 1967 border? Because for me, he's an evangelist, and you know evangelists support Zionism. So do you think he will bring back the 2-state solution, or he will have a ceasefire? That's number 1. The second question is that I usually debate with people who claim, to love Israel, but they all have delusional facts. So how do you debunk the delusional facts of Jews claiming that the name Palestine came from the Romans, who gave them the name Philistines as an insult to the Jews? So, can I have just one?
I'm sorry, but I don't think so because we need to accommodate to other students as well. Thank you. But you may reserve your question for the second round of question and answer, yes. May Sister Shahid? All right, we're gonna have one more question from the brother with the white shirt.
Hi, so can I ask 2 questions to Dr. Mohammed in the middle?
Okay.
Addressing it. So you mentioned regarding Twitter comparatively all the other social media, that Twitter is banning the restrictions on all the other social media, lifting it off, but allowing posts about Hamas and Palestine. So do you think like superpowers like Elon Musk when he came and they laid a lot of employees, the old employees, and then happened to allow and lift up a lot of restrictions that we have seen in Twitter previously? Do you think in any way, superpowers like Elon Musk and others can bring some changes to this issue and help to solve it better? And also my second question is about, you mentioned about Saudi Arabia, and recently we got to know that Saudi Arabia is keeping a pause on the matter of neutralizing the situation or the relationship between Israel and Saudi Arabia by the help of USA. So what we get to realize that there is support from US, that is Saudi Arabia is getting to have the neutralization between Saudi Arabia and Israel, but now they have paused it. So by any chance, do you think could shed a light there. So that will make the change and wouldn't neutralize and agree to what they're asking for Israel. That's all.
Okay, I think the question the sister asked is very, very tough, as it was the title of my presentation as well. And I think I did explain about whether the state of Israel is a legitimate state or illegitimate state. And of course now our good sister is asking me to tell her in simple words whether this state is illegitimate or not. Of course, a state that is established by deception, lies, confiscation of other people's lands. Oh, that was different sound, and now the sound is different, right? So a state that is established from its inception, established based on deception, lies, violence, confiscation of other people's land and territory, and using force which is not valid under international law. Do you think that state is a legitimate state? So I think I leave the answer to the rest of the participants. Yeah. I hope I answered your question, right? Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, okay.
Okay, if Israel said that they have the right to return, why does that only applicable to them? The Palestinian refugees, the internally displaced people of Palestine also have the right to return to their hometown, isn't it? Okay, now I think I can combine my answers to both Mardia's and Shah's question, talking about the enforcement of international law, to what extent international law applicable in this situation. It seems that international law is not applicable to Israel. It seems that enforcement cannot take place. But I answer Shah's sub-question whether veto can ever be abolished. Now, veto is provided in the UN Charter, and the UN Charter has provided that to change, to make amendment to the Charter, there is a need for 2/3 majority in the General Assembly, isn't it, Prof? Together with a condition that there is no veto by any of the permanent members. So amendment to the Charter may also be vetoed. I don't think US, UK, France, China, and Russia will agree to strip themselves of veto. So it is not practical. Okay. Now, with regard to enforcement, of course, we have veto as a problem. But the thing is, in international law, among other things we can do would be to put pressure. Okay? International law is sometimes related to international politics. So politics also has to be considered. We have to be creative, trying to find ways. In year 2021, okay, the ICC prosecutor at that time was asking whether it has jurisdiction to investigate alleged war crimes in Palestine from certain years to another years. Okay, and at that time, a number of states submitted, giving their opinion that ICC has no jurisdiction. But there are also international law professors, there are also NGOs, including My Aqsa Foundation. We gave opinion that ICC has jurisdiction to investigate alleged war crime in Palestine. And the ICC eventually decided, they found that they have the jurisdiction. Okay, although probably the investigation has not begun yet. But at least Israel became worried. Okay, now you see, you can pressure the ICC prosecutor. You can pressure state leaders, for example. Send a note to the ICC prosecutor. Aren't you going to investigate the situation today? We have to be creative. We have to pressure all these relevant authorities, pressure the ICC prosecutor, so that he or she will say that he's going to investigate. Another thing, I recommend that all states in the world legislate penal laws to make war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and crimes of aggression committed anywhere in the world as crimes punishable, triable in the courts of the state, so that all these war criminals cannot go anywhere, because if anywhere they go, so you, where I was, yeah, so that all these criminals, they will just stick to their country. They cannot go anywhere. They cannot go holiday. Pada muka mereka. So the thing is, if they ever go to any country that has criminalized war crimes against humanity, that state will have the jurisdiction to try. Even though it happened in Palestine, but it can be tried in other countries. Malaysia is a party to the Genocide Convention since 1992, but we have yet to make genocide a crime. We can.
U.S. supported Israel since Israel occupied Palestine, and they give them full support since that time. So whoever become the president of America, for sure he will continue to support Israel, because they have their interest in the Middle East. This number one. Number two, many Israeli lobby inside America, so they can give impact to the American elections. So many Jews in US, so these people, they can give very strong influence to American elections. So if Donald Trump become the president in the future, Biden or anyone, they will continue to support Israel. This is the reality. So even now the American, many of them not happy, because much money, many weapons to Israel, and Israel used this money to kill the civilian and bomb the hospitals and all the civilian objects. At the same time, America paid for Israel more than $4 billion US. Can you imagine? Unimaginable full support. So if Donald Trump come, he will not continue with two-state solution, because now Israeli want to take the Palestinian land all. Okay. The second question about the name of Palestine, whether this is Israeli name or what is the root of the Israeli issue. Okay, 5,000 years ago, the Arab tribes stayed in Palestine, which is part of Jaffa, Gaza, especially related to the sea, because you know that time they have to stay quite close to the water and other places, and also for agriculture lands. And then all these 5,000 years before Prophet Ibrahim, before Prophet Yaqub, you know that there is another name for Yaqub, Israel, alayhi salam. This is the name of Prophet. During that time, Palestine, we didn't use the name of Palestine, but after this is what we call them Al-Kan'aniyun, Kan'anis, or they stayed in Palestine. This is Arab tribes, okay, for long time, for very long time, around 2,000 years, and then after that, slowly, this is the problem happened, and many tribes from many places. There is one place is from Greece, and also from other places. There is one tribes, they call it Crete. That time the name of Palestina came from the Crete tribes. When they attacked Palestine, they accepted them, and they after they have like a peace with them, and then they started to use the name of Palestina, and this name continued. All of this happened before even Prophet Israel, Prophet Yaqub, and all the name of Israel started. So when Prophet Dawood alayhi salam, they established we can call it the first time for Israeli, but not Israeli, for Jews that time, or for the Prophet Yaqub and Dawood alayhi salam people. They stay for very short time, and then after that again the Palestinian, the Arab, stayed in that place until Musa alayhi salam time. When Prophet Musa asked them to enter, they refused to enter because they said there's قوما جبارين قالوا إن فيها قوما جبارين. There's very strong people there who I'm not going to go to fight. Go and you're got to fight. So they refused to enter the Palestine until they get the Palestinian land through the occupation, and they try to find any religious reason to make it like we have roots here, and that's why they're digging many years under the Masjid Aqsa to find any evidence. This is the body or Haykal Sulaiman or anything related to Israel, to show this is Israel, part of our Palestine, this is our land, but they couldn't find anything. So that's why now they use the power to continue colonization, occupation to Palestine. Okay, just...
sorry, but I think we want to conclude the session.
Okay, inshallah, maybe we postpone to the next... okay, thank you.
Okay, so that concludes the first round of question and answer session. We will now begin a second talk. Each speaker, please be reminded that you have 10 minutes respectively. You may now begin.
Okay, in the slides, many things related to the Israeli crime and the numbers of the shaheed. I think we can focus on our topic about the rationality and legality of the Palestinian resistance against Israel. You can just go down for these many crimes against Israel. They're killing the journalists, bombing the houses, the schools, or even the schools protected according to international law, masjids, many masjids, even last night church. They bombed church last night, and many hospitals, as you know. So a doctor already explained about the blockade in Gaza. So Israel use internationally banned weapons against the Palestinian, and they try to playing the victimize themselves to show they are victims. Okay, so because I have only 10 minutes, let me focus on this topic about rationality and legality Hamas Tufan al-Aqsa according to the law. Okay, I try to focus on the resolution and certain evidence from international law to support that the Palestinians have self-defense because we are under occupation. Okay, but Israeli do not have the right to say we have the right to do the self-defense. Okay, the first point to discuss, the rights to self-determination, as Prof. Naqib explained to you. This is very important and established right in the international law and fundamental principle in UN General Assembly resolution, many resolutions. One of them 1514. This is, they call it Declaration on the Granting of Independence to Colonized Countries and People. So according to this declaration or this resolution, okay, they affirm that the independence for countries and people under colonial rules, under colonization. And we have another declaration on a friendly relation, resolution 2625, 1970, okay, which reflect customary, also consider customary international law, recognize the right to resist against foreign forcible action that deprive people of their rights to self-determination. So according to this rights, this give recognition to the right of self-determination to Palestinian, and it states that every state must refrain from any forcible action that deprives the people from their rights of self-determination, freedom, and independence. Next, please. Okay, we have too many resolutions, numerous resolutions from UN General Assembly support national liberation movements. And in fact, Hamas and also Islamic Jihad and other parties in Gaza, the description of them, we can call them, all of them, this is national liberation movement to fight the occupier. This is the main reason that why they are here, not like what US and Europe keep saying they are the wing of Iran in the Middle East. That's totally wrong. Because Palestinians fight because we are under occupation, not we are fighting on behalf of others. Okay, this is the, according to many resolutions, they give the people under occupation the right for struggle, for independence and self-determination. Okay, here there's some examples I did mention in the slides. 2105 Resolution 1965 condemned Portuguese colonization in Guinea-Bissau, and they request all the states. You see the opposite we see right now. UN give the protection to occupier, but previously they give the protection and support to the movement, liberation movement. Here, request all states to provide material and moral assistance to the national liberation movement in colonial territories. So you see this very clear. Now, right now, we can see this happen with Ukraine. They give all the support to Ukraine because they said they are under attack, they are under occupation, they are under invasion from Russia. But at the same time, they protect the Israeli and give them all the necessary power, necessary money, and also the weapon. United Nations General Assembly give very clear resolution for the Palestinian, not for general, not in general. This is for the Palestinian. 3236 issued in 1974 gave the Palestinian people the right to use all available means to achieve their freedom, including armed struggle. So they give us the right. Once we use it, they said you are ISIS, you are terrorism. Okay, so you see this international law now and the international world very selective. They give the people that they want the right to do right defense, the self-defense, but at the same time they prevent the Palestinian from fighting, from the armed struggle, as UN resolution and many resolutions give us this right. Next slide, please. Okay, we have another clear and direct resolution for the Palestinian cause. Okay, in 1982, this is just examples. If I want to mention all the resolutions to support the Palestinian armed struggle, we need not 10 minutes, maybe 10 hours. Because from time to time, especially before 2000, before the second intifada, they keep giving us the rights. You have the rights to return to your homeland, to occupied area. But right now, we didn't hear anyone from Europe, from organizations, repeat the same resolution, which gives the Palestinian the right to return, as the doctor said, to return to their homeland, as we call it حق العودة, our rights to return to our houses, our lands. Even as the Dr. Hisham said, they do not have the right to change. You know, I remember my father said, after Israeli occupied Palestine in 1948, okay, but at that time from 1948, because I don't want you to have any confused, Doctor said Gaza 1967, right? Why? Because 1948 Israeli occupied Palestine, except Gaza and West Bank. That time Gaza under Egyptian rule and West Bank under Jordanian rule. Until 1967, and the war, the 6 days war, as Prof said, okay, this happened and they occupied all the Palestinian land, including Gaza and West Bank. Okay, so when we are saying 1948 Palestine, Gaza, but 1967, and West Bank 1967. Okay, so in this resolution, they affirm legitimacy of the struggle for independence and recalling the case of Namibia in Africa and also Palestine. They mention as the Namibian and the Palestinian have the rights to struggle and to use the power. Why? Because right now in UN Charter, we have very clear exception for using the force. Okay, so use of force is prohibited according to UN Charter, isn't it? We have two exceptions. The first one, right of self-defense. And we are under occupation, the occupier attacking us, so we have the right to use the armed struggle, okay? And they mentioned that about the Palestinian cause. When Ukraine resists now, they call it self-defense. But the Palestinian, when they fight against Israel, they call it terrorism. And they try, the Prime Minister of Israel, he keeps saying that the Palestinian, and especially Hamas and other Palestinian resistance, like ISIS. However, we are the owner of the land. Okay? So do not blame the victim, do not victimize yourself. But this is they try to use the media and the effect of the media in the Western. Next slide, please. Okay, we have here, however, France, very bad related to Palestinian cause, but still we have many experts, many citizens, still they look at the issue, the Palestinian issue, as a freedom issue. Even everyone said the president of North Korean crazy, isn't it? But he said the Palestinian cause is freedom. So everyone should support the Palestinian cause. Okay? So here, French journalist Alain Grish said, every time the Palestinian revolt, the West, the same West that doesn't hesitate to praise the resistance of Ukrainian, all the time they support the resistance from Ukrainian, they invoke terrorism. They describe the resistance from the Palestinian as a terrorism. Okay, with that, okay, he said also within that same tone, French President Macron strongly condemned the terrorist attack currently striking Israel without uttering a word, without saying any word against about the ongoing occupation, which is the source of the violence. He's very honest. He said the source of the violence occupation. Why you describe the resistance from Ukrainian to be self-defense, and they have this right, and we are going to support them, and this is very good investment for US, but at the same time you describe the resistance and the self-defense from the Palestinian as a terrorism. This is double standard. This is very selective. And he concluded, as stated in Article 2, he brings very old declaration. Article 2 of the Declaration of Rights of Man and of the Citizen, issued August 26, 1789, resistance to oppression is a fundamental right. Okay, thus the Palestinian can obtain this or can demand this, justifiably lay down or lay claim for this right, which is the resistance to oppression. Okay, next. Okay, illegal occupation. So this is very important question because they keep saying in the news, Israel has the right to self-defense. Okay, so illegal occupation represents unlawful use of force. Okay, unlawful use of force, which is prohibited according to international law. Okay, 2 more minutes, 1.5. Okay, So as long as we have illegal occupation, so we can describe this. This consists. We can call it this. The description of this to be wrongful act. Okay. So if wrongful act, we as a Palestinian have the right to self-defense, not the occupier. This number one. Number two, during this is very clear evidence about Israel doesn't have the right to self-defense. ICJ, in its advisor opinion related to the wall, as Dr. Hisham said, 2004, countered Israeli claimed on construction the wall in self-defense. They said, we are doing this as a way of self-defense. By stating that, this right, the court said, this right or this claim irrelevant. Why? Based on the fact that Israel exercises effective control over the Palestinian land territory. You have the control. You are the occupier. How? Okay, the one who asks for self-defense, the criminal or the victim? You are the occupier. You are the occupier. So how you ask for self-defense? Even ICJ said you are controlling and exercise effective control over the occupied Palestinian land. And then how? They asked him, how do you ask for self-defense? They rejected the claim. Okay, next, please. Okay, this is about Geneva Convention, about the description of the prisoner of war. This is also important thing. Israeli tried to show that the Palestinian resistance, when they attacked Israel on 7th October, they killed and hated the children, they burned the families, and they raped the women. All of this fake news, and they couldn't bring any evidence or any picture for this. But this is the propaganda. You try to call this, you try to say this all the time, and the people, they will believe. This is what Israeli Prime Minister doing right now. So this is according to Geneva Conventions, prisoner of war, not hostages. Okay, we didn't kidnap them. Okay, they are under the description of prisoner of war. Prisoner of war, that means we keep them. And we treat, in fact, maybe you can see many videos how the Palestinians treated the Israeli prisoners. They take care of them, they provide them the food, even if they need any medical treatment, they provide them. However, we need every doctor now in Gaza, but they provide them. And there's one case, the doctor did operation for 3 hours for Israeli prisoner in Gaza. However, this time we have many cases that they couldn't find any way for treatment. Okay, so prisoner of war, this is very important term to use. Okay, last slide, please. Okay, so this is Dr. Hisham explained the rule or the obligation of the occupying power or the occupation. Okay, this one of the Article 55, that the occupying power has the duty of ensuring the food and medical supplies. This is one of the obligation. However, now the occupying power made blockade and prevent the people to reach to the water, to electricity, communication. I couldn't communicate with my family since 3-4 days because no electricity, no internet, no water, and also no food and no medical supplies, which will become disaster if they didn't provide the Palestinians with humanitarian aid. Okay, so to conclude, Palestinian resistance. Not only Hamas, any Palestinian, okay, all the Palestinians have the right to armed struggle and self-defense against the occupier. At the same time, Israeli occupier, so they cannot claim, they cannot say they cannot use these justifications to kill the civilian and bomb all the civilian objects, including the masjids, the church, the hospitals, and the houses, and every place. You cannot imagine what's going on in Gaza. Even the people in Gaza, they cannot imagine if when the Israeli launch any rockets against them, just they wait this rocket to be on the houses, on the heads. So which that means there is no safe place in Gaza, no shelters. So the suffering ongoing and not so big. So that this is the responsibility for every, as Dr. Prof. Naqib said, for Muslim countries, Arab countries, all the even non-Muslim who has good faith, okay, to decide to stop this war and provide the population in Palestine, including also Muslim, Christian, and Jews, their equal rights. Thank you very much, and sorry, maybe I take 3 minutes. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Now I speak from here. Okay. I can speak. Can I do that? Yes. I think before I speak on the title given to me, that is violations of IHL by Israeli Iron Swords operation, let me to say a few words in the defense of international law, because the three of us are teaching public international law. One of our sisters talked about the futility of international law, that international law is futile. She is right in the context of world peace and security, the maintenance of which is entrusted with the United Nations Security Council, but the Security Council sadly failed to carry out its responsibility. But international law is wider than that, very much wider than that. We have international trade, we have international migration, we have international refugees, we have so many other aspects where international law operates very well. But as you are right in terms of maintaining international peace and security, it has failed. The system, the UN collective security system has failed, unfortunately. Not only in Palestine, but in Ukraine and other wars that are happening in the world. Now, as you are aware, and as Dr. Muhammad just now explained, on 7 October, Hamas fired a few rockets and started a war against began to attack Israel in simple terms. So Israel, in response to that, stated that we are at war. Netanyahu said, right? We are at war. And Israel then started a brutal, barbaric, inhuman, and murderous military operation against the Palestinians. I mean, Israel is not attacking Hamas alone, it's attacking Palestinians in Gaza and also in the West Bank and other parts of Palestine. Now, so clearly there is a conflict. There is a conflict, a war. The question is, what are the rules, the international law rules governing such a conflict as occurring right now in Palestine? Of course, there are two sets of laws or rules that govern war. The first one is the law relating to the initiation of war, or what is called in Latin term is use ad bellum, or the law on the use of force. I think just now Dr. Muhammad did successfully explain that aspect of the law and stated that Israel is an aggressor, has no right of defense. self-defense. But the victim, the Palestinian, has the right to defend themselves against aggression. Now, Israel consistently in breach of Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the United Nations Charter, while Palestinians struggle, the fight is justified by virtue of Article 51 of the United Nations Charter. That is, of course, the law that just now, the first set of law, or the law that regulate the initiation of war, is governed by the United Nations Charter. We have another set of rules or law that is called the law governing the conduct of the warring factions once the war began. And that law is called Jus in bello in the Latin term, and popularly known as international humanitarian law. That law basically limits the conduct of the warring parties, what they can do during an armed conflict and what they cannot do. The message international humanitarian law delivers is very, very clear. I am going to talk about few messages that can be applied in the current situation in Palestine, but before that, let me to tell you that this law can be found, the law that regulate the conduct of the warring factions in time of war can be found, or IHL can be found in international treaties, international customary law, general principles of law. You can find the most important treaties are as Dr. Hisham earlier stated, the 4 Geneva Conventions of 1949 and the 2 additional protocols to that Geneva Conventions, one of which can apply in time of international armed conflict. The other one applies in time of non-international armed conflict. But the question is, what is the status of the conflict between Israel and Palestine? I should give you a simple and direct answer here, that the conflict is an international armed conflict, and the entire provisions of the 4 Geneva Conventions of 1949 and additional protocol number 1 applies in this situation. And the parties to the conflict, both the Palestinians as well as the Israelis, must abide by. So there is no escape from that. The law I'm talking right now, Jus in bello, applies only and only in time of armed conflict. But of course, we have international human rights law also. That law is a general law. It applies in all situations, in times of peace as well as in time of armed conflict, though some of its provision can be suspended in time of war. Now, what messages IHL conveys to the parties in this particular conflict are, I just listed them, of course this is a subject which we teach in one semester, right? But I'm giving you the gist of it in just 10 minutes. Now, I think 5 minutes of which is already expired, I believe. Oh God. That's true. Okay, just a few minutes. The first message is message of international humanitarian law is that do not attack people who are not or no longer taking part in hostilities, meaning they are civilians. Do not attack civilians. In contravention of international humanitarian law, Israel is attacking civilians, men, women, children, and even babies, right? So it's clear violation. Do not use, international humanitarian law says, do not use weapons that make no distinction between combatants and non-combatants. But unfortunately, Israel using weapons that are not discriminatory, that are that kill everybody and burn everything on its path, like the white phosphorus. That is the weapon that severely burn people as well as severely burn objects, and it will continue to burn the ground. Very difficult to extinguish. So it is happening in Gaza right now. IHL, of course, limits the effects of war, but Israel's genocidal conduct seems to know no limits. They are not restraining themselves. Israel is violating all the principles of international humanitarian law, including the principle of distinction, precaution, proportionality, and the principle of humanity. By willfully murdering the innocent people in Palestine, Israel is committing a serious war crime. Today, tomorrow, or the day after, the perpetrators of this crime will one day be brought to justice, inshallah. So with that, I finish. Right? Yes, okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Some of what I'm going to say I already mentioned in response to Mardia's and Shad's question just now. I just like to add a few more things. But continuing from pressuring the ICC prosecutor, for example, right? Israel is claiming, Dr. Shogaki is saying this is fake, that the Hamas operative have violated IHL, have committed war crimes. So let's challenge the ICC prosecutor, ask the ICC prosecutor to investigate both sides, investigate Hamas as well as the Israelis. Let's see whether the Israelis are willing to be investigated, for example. Okay, so that is a way. We have to be creative on this. Now, I also would like to suggest that every time a resolution is prepared, a draft resolution is prepared before the Security Council, and let's say it is being unsuccessful, being vetoed, or there are other states that voted in the negative, or there are states that abstain from voting, whereas the resolution, the draft resolution is calling for humanitarian assistance, ceasefire, for example. So I think it is good pressure if every state that abstained from voting, every state that vetoed, every state that voted negatively, other states send notes, diplomatic notes. We are unhappy with your stand. We are unhappy why you voted against. This is for humanitarian cause. Do this every time a draft resolution is turned down. So we put pressure and others. Now, other things that can be done would be to cut off diplomatic relations with Israel. In the war in Gaza from December 2008 to January 2009, Bolivia and Venezuela, are they Muslim states? Are they Muslim states? They are not Muslim states. They cut off diplomatic ties with Israel. And a few days ago, after this war, the current war has started, Colombia expelled the Israeli ambassador. Is Colombia a Muslim state? No. So not only Muslim states, there are also other states, okay, that are also siding with humanity. Okay, we can form a force here. Okay, putting pressure. Of course, we cannot probably use force at this moment. But I do think, Prof. Nakib, that because Dr. Muhammad mentioned about the people have the right of self-determination, the people have the right of self-defense. Now, under international law, there is also the concept of collective self-defense. Collective self-defense, in the case of Nicaragua, the court said that the state under attack must request. Okay. Now, if state who is under attack can request, I think we can argue that a people who is under colonization, who have the right of self-determination, and the right of self-determination is obligation erga omnes, they can be wiped out. So if they are under attack, they can also ask for help in terms of collective self-defense. Of course, another issue whether there will be other states willing, brave enough, courageous enough to help, but at least we can pursue this in our talk, in our research, for example. Now, I don't have much more to say on this, but I just want to bring back to the opening of Constantinople, the conquest of Constantinople. When I first heard about the conquest of Constantinople, I thought that the Muslims were very powerful at that time, okay, and more powerful than the Byzantine Empire. But later research, I found that actually the Byzantine was actually getting weaker and weaker. Byzantine was actually going weaker and weaker, and the Ottoman was getting stronger and stronger. Okay, and the Ottoman was successful in conquering Constantinople. Now, when we talk about Israel, is Israel getting stronger? They couldn't prevent 1,200 Hamas fighters. They couldn't. And Israel is made of diversity. All the Jews from Eastern Europe, Jews from Russia, Jews from Iran, from Africa coming in. Are they blended together? Well, no. Is there a government in Israel? Yeah, but patchy government. They are getting weaker and weaker. How about the Palestinians? They are getting stronger and stronger. The operation last Saturday proved that they have come up with new innovation on the means and methods of warfare. Worlds are impressed. I'm impressed. Don't you, Prof? Yeah, you are impressed. You see, the Palestinians are getting stronger and stronger, and Israeli, because of the nature, their diversity in the diversity thing, they are getting weaker and weaker. The prime minister, the president, whatever, they may be thinking whether this can be correct, and it's always been subjected to the opposition's viewpoint. The time of victory is near, inshallah. The time of victory is near. The only thing is we must be patient. the Palestinians must be patient. We Muslims must show solidarity. In the Constitution of Medina, Article 17 of the Constitution of Medina, please take a look at the Constitution. This was a sunnah of the Prophet, put in a constitution. You see it? Sunnah of the Prophet is very important. But when the sunnah is put in a constitution, it means that it is more important. The Article 17 provided that the peace of the mu'min is indivisible. You cannot divide the peace of the mu'min. You cannot say that is Palestinian issue, not Malaysian issue. No. The peace of the believers is indivisible. No Muslim can have peace when other Muslims are fighting in the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When the Palestinians are fighting, the other Muslims cannot have normalization treaties with Israel, please. I hope this message will reach. Thank you.
So we have heard from the speakers and we have now come into the question and answer session. However, due to time constraint, we're only able to receive 2 questions from the audience. The floor is open. Who would like to ask a question?
Assalamualaikum. How should Muslims navigate a scenario when their government supports Israel? As a Singaporean, my government condemns Hamas and prays for Israel's victory. While Muslim Singaporeans are restricted from public protests, in this context, what should Muslims like me do? That's my question.
And we have the second question from the audience. Anyone who's interested in asking? A good leadership.
Can I ask, I don't know which one to ask, but can I ask about the 1992 Oslo talks with PLO? And another one is I want to ask, you are saying about collective self-defense, but I'm going to ask about the Iraq invasion of 2001, where the UN uses its resolution to attack Iraq. Why in this case they cannot attack Israel the same way? That's my biggest stress.
So the floor is yours to answer the questions.
Thank you. With regard to the different treatment, when Iraq invaded Kuwait, Iraq was punished. When Israel aggressed against the Palestinian, they were not punished. The problem is caused by the veto power. Okay, there are 5 permanent members of the Security Council. Security Council had 15 members, 5 permanent members, and the other 10 are non-permanents elected for every 2 years in the rotation. Now, with regard to the 5 permanent members, they were the one who won the Second World War. They were the one who drafted the UN Charter. From the very beginning, they had already this idea of veto, that any action can only be taken if they have not casted negative vote. The small states at that time, led by South Africa, objected to the veto formula, but they had no choice, because if veto was not accepted, then United Nations organization cannot materialize. So the other states at that time had no choice but to accept. So Israel was established by UK. At the beginning, there were a lot of vetoes by UK to protect Israel. And now the role has been taken over by the United States of America. Yeah, and with regard to the question, if let's say you are you are a citizen of a country that support Israel. I think among the things that you can do would be to find more and more evidence, understand the law better, so that you can try to influence one by one members of parliament, one by one politician in your country. Okay, I have given the example of Colombia, Venezuela, and Bolivia, right? So even some other non-Muslim, we believe that they have the ability to be human, of course. They have the ability to feel for the suffering. Okay, you may not be able to change the government at that time or to change the government stand at one time, but try to get more and more politicians, more and more members of parliament to understand the situation, so that inshallah in the future, at least the government can be more neutral on this.
I think the question from our brother from Singapore, you are not alone. People, Muslim in the non-Muslim majority states, especially in the West, are facing this problem, even though these countries claim to be the champion of freedom of speech. Now even you cannot tell the truth in some of those countries. But in any case, you as a citizen of that country, you have to respect the laws of Singapore, of course, whatever it is in operation. But you may, as Prophet Sham just now mentioned, you can steal from the humanitarian perspective. You may tell the truth, what is happening in that part of the world, in Palestine and in the neighboring countries, and what Israel is doing. I think in that way you can eventually convince the authorities there. You can do it through social media, you can do it, but you don't have to criticize what the government is doing, of course, but you tell the realities, what is going on, from your own perspective, then inshallah in that way you can contribute to the Palestinian cause as well, right? I think I just wanted to make a comment on that.
Okay, the issue, because the question why Singapore? I have friends there. I have students in Singapore. They told me that the government, they have very good relationship with Israel, even with Israeli army. So they have cooperation, not only just supported Israel from far away from Singapore, but they have meetings, they exchange their experiences. So this is the reason, because of the interest, not because the Palestinian cause not a humanitarian issue. Even the government, they know that. Japan, can you imagine when Japan fought against the Palestinian? You said, how Japan doing this? They suffered from a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, today, once there is a decision suggested by Russia to stop the war in Gaza, they vote against. Why? Because now the interest with US. So this is now the law of power, international law of power and interest. Okay, so what should we do? As the doctor suggested, once you have very strong Muslim community in Singapore, you can influence, you can have pressure on the government, at least, if not to support Palestine, to be neutral. okay, to have the balance, okay, to support the human rights. Okay, we are now, even in America, Jewish yesterday, they participated, gathered themselves in march, and they said, for Israeli, do not kill the civilian using our name. But this Jewish not supported Zionists. That just to know that our problem, our war, not with Jews. Yes, our war with Zionists because they occupied our land. This is not religious war. Israeli tried to show that this is a religious war between Jews and Muslims. It's not true because we have Jews even before 1947. We have villages of some areas like here sections for Jews in Egypt, in Iraq, in Yemen, in Morocco, in many Arab and Muslim countries. At the same time, also we have Christians. For the PLO question, PLO established not 1992, right? It's 1964. PLO, Palestinian Liberation Organization. Okay, the main purpose of this organization to be as a liberation movement. Okay, but with the development of the Palestinian cause, okay, PLO, Dr. Prof. Naqib suggested in his first talk to have a negotiation with Israel because this is one of the peaceful means of settlements and disputes according to international law. Okay, so negotiation or conciliation, mediation, arbitration, anyway. Okay, we are talking about peaceful means. Didn't work with Israel. The Palestinian Authority tried this very long time ago because they started as a PLO, and then 1993, 1992, and 93, 94 they established Palestinian Authority in Oslo. Okay, and then they start to say, okay, you have sovereignty not complete in Gaza and part of West Bank. But also didn't work with Israel. Negotiation by the president. Our president, Mahmoud Abbas, and also the previous president, Yasser Arafat, they prefer negotiation rather than fighting. And they have different ideology with Hamas and other Palestinian resistance in Gaza. That's why we have political division between Gaza and West Bank right now since 2007. Because we have different parties with different ideology. Every party think we can make Palestine free by our means. Hamas said for president and also other parties, you tried negotiation for a very long time ago. So we have to use the force now. We have to use legal force, which is self-defense, okay, to be free. That's why now Gaza use this way. At the same time, our Palestinian president Mahmoud Abbas is still trying to negotiate with Israel and try to find any solution for the Palestinian land with recognition of Israel. PLO recognized Israel, by the way. And they said, okay, just give us the border until 1967. Okay, which is, they call it the border of 1967. We will accept. But Israeli didn't give us even the border for 1967. That means they will get more than half of Palestine, and they give us 40% or 30%. And however, now Israeli just control everything. We have non-complete sovereignty over less than 20% of Palestinian land. Okay, so, and Israeli rejected. Okay, so that's why after all the ways, the peaceful means, we couldn't get any rights by all these ways. That's why all the Palestinian resistance in Gaza, and also in West Bank, but in West Bank, because Israeli control everything, they are inside West Bank, they do not have the time, they do not have the power, they do not have the place to try to develop the military army or military groups to fight Israel like Gaza. Gaza, no Israeli inside, by the way. They make siege around Gaza, but no Israeli inside. The West Bank, the situation very bad because Israeli can move and go any house, anytime. Okay, so that's why the power of the Palestinian resistance in West Bank not too strong. In Jerusalem, same, but in Gaza, they were very long time ago. Now, Hamas established 1987, and before that, many years, they tried to settle the solution by the negotiation, but that was not enough to settle the negotiation. Okay, thank you very much.
All right. A round of applause for the speakers, please. We've come to the end of the talk session. Thank you to all of the speakers for willing to put your voice out there for Palestine and for everyone who has joined and demonstrated your continuous support during the session. We will now close with a recitation of dua by Brother Zafi, the program manager today.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. On behalf of the International Secretariat Law Student Society, IAUM, I would like to say thank you for joining us today, tonight to stand in solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Palestine. As we conclude this important discussion, let us remember that the pursuit of peace, justice, and human rights knows no borders. Through education, awareness, and compassion, we can contribute to a world where every individual's rights are respected, inshallah. Thank you for your commitment to a just and peaceful world. Together, let us continue to work towards a future where everyone can live in harmony and prosperity. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you. And let us end tonight's session with a dua. Okay, Bismillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. اللهم إنا نجعلك في نحور أعدائنا ونعوذ بك من شرورهم اللهم بدل شملهم وفرق جمعهم وشتت كلمتهم وزلزل أقدامهم وسلط عليهم كلبا من كلابك يا قهار يا جبار يا منتقم يا الله يا الله يا الله اللهم يا منزل الكتاب ويا مجري السحاب ويا هازم الأحزاب اهزمهم وانصرنا عليهم سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلى الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Everyone, please do stay for a short while for a photography session to commemorate the event. The speakers, yes, please sit. Thank you.